Hello everyone. Hope you all had a wonderful Monday. As for me, it was a little weird, but overall interesting. But being that it is Monday means that it's time for spooky places. And this week we shall cover a few places in the great state of Wisconsin. And our first stop is Evansville House, Evansville, Wisconsin. The old Evansville, hard to say. The old Evansville House, which has been known in more recent years as the East Side Steakhouse, was built in 1834, and for many years it was used as a boarding house and a hotel. It was sold to the Van Patten family in 1894, and it was then that the strange phenomena began. According to the legends, the prosperous boarding house had once employed a number of servants to meet the demands of the boarders and guests who stayed there. There was said to have been a chambermaid who had been unlucky enough to fall in love with a married salesman who had stayed there. The affair continued for several months until one day, when the salesman snapped. He was lost in despair over his move for the maid, but he was unable to marry her because of the wife that he already had. He somehow convinced himself that the young maid would marry another, so the salesman strangled the girls one night. He had decided that he could not keep her, then no one else would have her either. The man escaped from the inn, but it was said that the girl's spirit may have gotten her revenge. The salesman ran to catch a passing train that was leaving the town, but somehow managed to fall onto the tracks and under the wheels of the passing car. He was horribly killed. Late one winter night, during the time that the Van Pattens owned the house, the Phantom Walker made his first appearance. The sound was described as someone wearing heavy boots pacing back and forth down the hallways at night. Whenever someone would check to see if anyone was in the hall, the sound would stop and the corridor would be found to be empty. The stories told that the house claimed that footsteps were being caused by the tormented ghost of the salesman returning to the scene of his crime and searching for the spirit of his lost love, hoping that he could atone for her death. All that winter the sounds continued till one night when Mr. Van Patten was laying in bed and listening to the footsteps. He noticed that they went down the stairs and toward the front door, and then finally the sound of the front door unlatching and opening and the footsteps going out onto the porch outside. Mr. Van Patten sprang from the bed and ran downstairs. When he reached the front door, he discovered that it was still latched. He pulled the door open and looked outside. The front porch was covered in a layer of freshly fallen snow. There were no footprints there from the spectral who had just left the building. The mysterious walker never plagued the boarding house again. The Evansville house later became the East Side Steakhouse, but is unfortunately no longer with us. It burned down a few years ago and was replaced by a gas station and convenience store. No hauntings have been reported at this new building. Evansville, Wisconsin is located in the Rock County in the south-central region of the state. Milwaukee was the site of the famous Giddings poltergeist case back in 1874. At that time, the Giddings boarding house became infested with strange activity. It all began in August of that year when Mrs. William Giddings and her servant, Mary Spriggle, were baking pies in the kitchen. According to reports, the trapdoor to the cellar opened by itself. Dishes and silverware flew around the room, and chairs and food hovered in the air, and a terrible racket filled the house. The two women summoned some neighbors, and they were startled when logs and water pot pails flew at them. People came from all over to witness the activity, and two sharp newspaper reporters noticed that happenings only occurred when Mary was present. With that, Mrs. Giddings fired the girl, and she was severely beaten by her father. The next day, Mary attempted suicide by jumping in the river, but she was rescued. Finally, a prominent Chicago doctor took her case and he discovered that Mary suffered from sleepwalking and was neurotic. Seemed that whenever he took her to the Giddings home, objects would begin to levitate in the air. Eventually, Mary was taken in by a physician and his family, and the activity came to a halt. Physical investigator Herbert Thurston called the story a remarkable American case. The house is now a private residence on Alice Street. Two other haunted locations in Milwaukee are both public spots. One of them is the Modjeska Theater, a once historic site that became a discount movie house. The resident specter here has been dubbed the balcony guest because he has a habit of looking down on the audience from the balcony during movies. Another location is the Pfister Hotel, where the ghost of founder Charles Pfister reportedly greets guests and has returned to make sure that they are well taken care of. He has been spotted looking over the lobby from a spot on the grand staircase and has also been seen walking in the gallery above the ballroom. Witnesses identify him from a portrait of him that hangs in the lobby. Well, I hope you all enjoyed the tales this week, my friends. Wishing you all a spooky night.